everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Hope you're doing great today. Timing sometimes is, I don't say coincidental because I really don't believe in that. Timing is what it is. Sometimes things happen exactly when they're supposed to. I don't plan this stuff. I just kind of go with what the Lord lays on my heart. Of course, I've prepared these lessons and what have you, but um, certainly didn't expect the timing of today's lesson to fall when it does. But we're the day after this big election hoopla and all the commercials and all of this and that. And I'm not going to devote 1 second of our lesson time into that because I certainly have my opinions. You have your opinions. That's neither here nor there. I find it unique that today's lesson, falling on that day, the events of yesterday and the day after, today's lesson in the second thing that God hates is a lying tongue. Do with that what you will. When we look at the concept, the understanding of a dishonest statement, a lie, an untruth, we need to look at just more than the words. We need to look at the intent. We need to look at the purpose. And it's always to gain something that normally you wouldn't gain. It's just the truth. Whether it's someone's trust, whether it's someone's money, someone's vote, whatever, someone's time. Lies bring hurt. They bring pain. They bring destruction. They bring embarrassment. They start wars. They ruin lives. They destroy families and businesses and churches and nations. So we can easily see why such a thing would be hated by God. Because as I shared with you yesterday, God hates that which brings pain to his children. A lie or lies oftentimes find themselves at the core, at the center of all the things that bring us pain, of all the situations that bring us pain, that hurt us, that hinder our lives, that make our days difficult, or whatever the case. If you've ever been lied to, if you've ever been lied about, you know how it feels. We've all had it happen. We've all experienced that in some type of way, whether it is a slanderous type situation where someone is saying something about you that's not true, or someone has told you something that's not true, whether it was to, as I'll talk about in a minute, try to protect you, and the concept behind it was innocent enough as far as the motive was concerned, but it ultimately didn't do that. It ultimately still hurt when the truth was found out. Or if the lie was intentional, meaning the desire was to create a hurt or a pain for some type of self joy. In the criminal world, in the law enforcement world, we have a lot of terminology that covers those areas, the psychopath and the narcissist and the this and the that and whatever the case. Let's just call it what it is. It's wrong. It's wrong. And people hurt each other every day, individually. and that's bad. But it never stays that simple. We're not talking about the little white lie. And that's not justifying that. We're not talking about a misconstruing, if you will, of someone's words. In other words, oh, that's not what I meant. I said this, but I got to okay. Everybody can misquote or misstate or whatever. That's one thing. But when it's intentional, it's done with a foreknowledge, a forethought of what I'm going to tell you. It's not only not true, it's never been true. It was a lie, always. And I told you anyhow. Because I don't care, or for some twisted reason, I want to see you hurt. I want to cause you pain. God hates that. God hates that because it brings pain to his children. In general, what we find about a lie is that it is an attempt to hide something. Always is. It's an attempt to hide something, whether it is the truth, whether it is guilt, whether it's whatever. There's always an attempt to hide some type of action that has taken place. And not only is it an attempt to hide something, it's an attempt to hide something that is going to create a problem for the one who is lying. That's important to understand in today's atmosphere, because in general, the ones that are lying to you, they've got something to hide. They don't want you to know, whether it is an erroneous action that is taking place or one that is going to take place and they don't want you to know about it, so they're trying to cover it up by putting Cool Whip on a cow pie. You see, now that's a terrible illustration, and I've used it many times over the years. If you're familiar with a cow farm or a field where cows are, obviously that's where they live. That's where all of their business is taken care of: eating, drinking, sleeping, running, playing, and other natural functions. What they leave in that circular pile obviously is waste, and we're not going to get graphic. However, if one were to take time, nice flat point shovel, scoop that up, clean it up as best as possible, and place it in a pie tin, nice round pie tin, and cover it up with an entire container of Cool Whip, True Whip, whatever your brand flavor is. Doesn't have to be a great value from Walmart, whatever the case. And present it to someone as a pie. It would have the visual appearance of being that. So one could say, well, that's not a lie. I gave you a pie. The visual appearance of that would seem that it would be a gift. It would be something that would be good. It would be something that I could enjoy, whatever the case. All of that was not true. But it was presented as not true. It was presented as great, a wonderful opportunity, and all this and all that and whatever. But it was never true. It was always rotten underneath. And you find that out after accepting the offer or the gift and taking the first bite. Oftentimes what we find with those things that are untrue is not only is it an attempt oftentimes to cover up an issue for the one that is giving you the dishonest statement. There are other times that one, as I referenced earlier, that one may use that as a means of protecting someone. In other words, protecting their feelings. Well, no, dear, that was a great meal. Knowing the whole time that you really almost couldn't swallow it because it was terrible. Now, we can make jokes about that or whatever the case is. We can even try to make justifications for that dishonesty because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so we could say our motives were pure. But when the truth of that comes out, the hurt feeling is still there. So it's inevitable. It's just the way that it is. When the result of a lie, and this is what we need to look at today. Why does God hate a lying tongue? It's the result. It's more than the words. It may be even more than the intent, because sometimes someone's intentions don't always play out because someone gets caught in that lie or whatever the case. The results of the lie, when they start destroying homes, when they start destroying families, children, when they start destroying churches, when they just start destroying nations and trust and every other component in life, then we begin to understand why Jesus said what he said about lies. He said that Satan is the father of lies. Now, father is an important word there because father is the one that participates in the offspring being born. In other words, without what the father can offer, and again, we're not going to do a biology lesson here, the other can't take place. So there has to be a father. Now, that may go against community standards in our world today, but that's just a biological fact. We want to talk about science. That's just true. Satan is the father of lies. But let's go back to yesterday. Where was he born out of? Pride. You see, it always goes back to number one. It always goes back to pride. Because the arrogance of the pride allows the one who becomes the one with the lying tongue to justify those actions, to become numb to what it produces because it's all about me. You see how all this ties together? Just as I shared with you yesterday, all the listings within Scripture, there's a number one. And everything else is born out of that. Pride, lying tongue, and so on and so on. We'll get through all the list over the next several days. Fruit of the Spirit. Things are born out of love. Got forgiveness and joy and so on and so kindness. Every single part of the list, regardless of where it's located, whether we're here in Proverbs, whether we're in Galatians, wherever we are, is born out of the first one. If we remove pride out of that, then the rest of these things go away because there's not an arrogant nature there. There's not a desire to fulfill that arrogant nature or build on that because we're not puffing oneself up. We're not trying to defend this or justify that, or because those things aren't there. We have to understand the essential placement of things in these lists, and pride is number one for a reason, because there's a desire there based and born out of that pride to be willing to lie. That's what the lying tongue does. We are oftentimes, I believe, conditioned for certain things in this world in particular. And one of the things that we're conditioned to do today is to believe a lie. To believe something that is not just untrue, but it's never been true. Now, again, I'm a little more animated today because not only the nature of the time that we're in, but friends, it is time to open our eyes. It is time to see what is going on around us and realize we go back to the teaching that we just came out of about the full armor of God. We are fighting spiritual wickedness, not flesh and blood, spiritual wickedness in high places. Part of that is rooted in pride, which produces dishonesty and lies, and people continue to fall for it. It's like trying to continue to pet the same dog that always bites you. When does it kick in that that dog doesn't like you? That that dog will never, never be a calm, nice, sweet, domesticated, sit in your lap friend. It's going to continue to do what it does, and it's not going to change. We've been conditioned to accept lies today, but they're not presented as lies. They're presented as movements. They're presented as times have changed. Well, you just got to do what you got to do. We've embraced, well, I have to pick between the lesser of two evils. Now hold on just a minute. We're embracing and accepting a standard that says there are two evils presented to me. Which one is lesser? It doesn't matter if both are evil. Where is our thinking in this, friends? Where does God stand in this? Well, I can tell you. He hates it. He hates it. Why? Because God is love. But God is also truth. And that is why the lying tongue is in this list of things that God hates. See, we see the mess, and there's no other word. Well, there was no other word that I would want to put in this teaching that can be used but mess right now, because there's a lot of other colorful language, but I would not put that in this teaching. We see the mess in our world right now. Where does it all stem from? Where is it born out of? It all goes back to the garden. And what happened there? A lie. A lie was told, and it created what we still deal with right now. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, and generations of people later. The enemy comes, the great deceiver comes, the liar, the father of lies comes. And he tells to Eve, well, that's not what God said. Oh, that's not what God said at all. You heard it wrong. Knowing that that was never true. She heard it right from the very first time. Do not take of that tree, you shall surely die. Very, very, very clear. However, the lie was, that's not what you heard. That causes the seed of doubt. That causes the pause, if you will. What? I mean, I thought I heard that. No, you didn't hear that. Come on. You won't die. Go ahead and take a bite. Go ahead. It's okay. One time won't hurt. That very lie continues right now. Right now in 2022. Oh, one time won't hurt. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. Come on. You don't have to listen to God. Come on. You don't have to listen. You can do whatever you want to do. That's true. We can do whatever we want to do. That's reality. That's even scriptural. Paul writes about it in 1 Corinthians. Do whatever you want to do. All things are lawful. All things are permissible. But not all things are beneficial. You see, we don't hear that part. That part gets conveniently left out, which in and of itself is a lie. Go ahead and pet the dog. But if you know that that dog will bite someone, you were dishonest. You didn't fill them in. Go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Go ahead and make whatever choice you want to make. Go ahead and check whatever box you want to check. But no one ever talks about the price tag. No one ever talks about the price that is attached. It's always after the fact. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I didn't know that would happen. Because somebody lied about it. Somebody lied about it. You see, pride started this dysfunction in the heart. That's where it happened. That's how it all was born. And this allowed the mind, if you will, this allowed our thought process to be deceived, which ultimately allowed one to be willing to be dishonest. Do we see how all this begins to play? Do we see how all this stacking, if you will, this building blocks from pride starts to build down? The lying tongue, the innocent shedding of innocent blood, and all the different things that we're going to look at over the next several days. Psalm 51 and verse 6 says this, behold, and this is speaking of God's desire, behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and is hidden, and you shall make me to know wisdom. In other words, you're after the truth, Lord. You're after the truth from the inside. You desire the truth from my heart. What's guarding and guiding, I should say, what's guiding your heart today? You see, God hates a lying tongue because it always, not sometimes, it always creates damage. It always causes hurt and pain, and it leaves a path of destruction that sometimes can't be fixed, or at least certainly not easily. See, friends, this is why I teach about relationship. It's my focal point in my teaching. We need a proper relationship with Christ. He is our greatest example. He was humble and not prideful. He is the way, He is the truth, and He is the life. He is our direction. He is our true example. Above Him there's no other. Jesus is the way. God bless you. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we look at the next component of what God hates.